Ladies and gentlemen, Seahawks fans of all ages, welcome back to the 12 Talk podcast. My name's Josh. This is Mitch. Whichever way I'm pointing, I still have no idea. Today, we're bringing you the penultimate episode of our positional breakdowns. We're going to talk about the big boys. It's the battle of the big boys. It's the D-line and the O-line. We've got some news that's coming out of Seahawks camp. We'll be looking at a bit of training camp as well, and any news and updates there. And then we'll start breaking down this D-line and O-line. Without further ado, let's get into it. There we go. Right back at it again. Right. Mitch, we're back.
Yeah.
Again. 2 weeks on the bounce. There you go. We had a little break and now we're back doing what we do best. And I'll start with usual. How are you doing, sir? You all right?
Yeah, good. I've had a day off work today, so I'm nice and relaxed. I was supposed to be getting tattooed, but tattoo artist had COVID, so having to postpone that, which is a bit disappointing, but I've been able to chill in the heat because it has been roasting hot in the UK this week. Yeah, but no, feeling very good. Enjoying all the coverage of training camp and all the little nuggets that are coming out of that, which we're going to talk about today when we talk about the big boys. But yeah, no, very exciting. It's the big boys. Yeah, it's all sort of building towards those preseason games and exciting.
It is. It's so exciting. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of looking forward to seeing you with like a John Merrick hand throughout the whole pod. Right. I am not an animal. I'm a human being.
Well, I have got a very, very bold shaved hand that is like ready to be tattooed.
Don't look to the camera. The glare is blinding.
It's a very pale hand, granted.
Yeah, it's been roasting today, hasn't it? Like I've been sat in my office, and as it gets past sort of like midday, the sun just beams straight through my office. So I either work in darkness or just sweat it out. And I was like, you know what, it's too nice. I sweat it out, and then I finished with putting my out of office on. That's until the 12th.
Nice.
And going to a beach hut to see my family, which was lovely. So yeah. We're recording this today. It's Tuesday today, and it'll be released sort of later in the week. So there will be more updates, but we will bring you back up to date with those as well. As I said, we're going to go through a little bit of news, a little bit on training camp, and then we'll get on to the big boys. So a bit of news coming out today that a past Seahawker has decided to retire.
Yeah.
A man who spent so long in the physio room that they nearly named it after him. He had one fantastic half season. I'll give our watchers and listeners a hint. The news will have broken by then, but in 10 games, he had 119 carries, rushed for 749 yards, and scored 6 touchdowns. He was nearly unplayable. First round pick from the Seahawks, Rashad Penny, has retired. I think that's what going to the Carolina Panthers does for you.
That is one way to end your career, isn't it?
He's literally gone there and gone, this isn't the NFL. I'm out.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the most surprising stat you've just read out is the fact that he played 10 games in a row. That's the surprising one. And I'm not throwing shade at Rashad Penny. He was a player I loved watching. I think he was part of a series of first round picks that just didn't work for a long time. And he ironically was a real game changer. He had huge talent, was a real scheme fit for our physical running game. He really pounded the rock and just couldn't stay healthy. And with Thomas Rawls and Chris Carson, and the retirement of Marshawn Lynch, we had a stretch there where it looked like someone was going to pick up the mantle and then broke down, and then pick up the mantle and then broke down. He was part of that. So as much as we enjoyed watching that streak that he got onto, which was unbelievable, it didn't last long. And running backs in the NFL, when they have that physical running style, there is a really short shelf life. So,
and this is the reason why they're all trying to get paid now, because the NFL has done that whole thing of we don't pay running backs because they break easily. They're like the cheap toy you get from the market, all really fun for a really short period of time, then they break and you're like, well, discard. But now there seems to be a bit of a boom in running backs getting paid, especially when they're premium running backs. So when it comes to Ken Walker being re-signed, I dread to think how much money he's going to command if he keeps on that upward trajectory.
For sure. And I think also when you see stuff like this, it kind of reminds you how well thought out our running back room is, because we've got a load of young talent in there. We've got a guy who can run the ball really physically if we want to do that, but doesn't have to do it for a whole game. We've got a guy that we're splitting outside as a receiver, as well as sort of putting him in space and having him run, to the outside. We're not asking our lead running back, to do everything or do it 30, 40 times a game. Well, not 40, that's a bit much, but you know what I mean? Like, it looks well thought out for Ken Walker's longevity and also Zach Charbonnet's longevity. So it adds some real weight to that.
And then you got Kenny McIntosh as well, who's going to be sharing that load. Big Kenny believer. I think it's fantastic. I mean, to be honest, let's face it, over the last couple of seasons, if we had 40 possessions offensively in a game, we were quite happy. There's no way a running back could take all those anyway. But yeah, Rashad Penny, we wish you the best. You were fantastic for us on your day. But also, from a bit of running back news, our good friend Dan Viennes put this on his X. We are working out Southern Illinois running back Justin Strong. I'm going to be very honest. I didn't do a lot of research on him about during the draft period and camp body.
I'm going to go and have a look quickly.
There you go. The screen flashed white for a second there. You can tell Mitch is on the go.
What was his first name?
It is Justin Strong.
Justin Strong. Let's have a look.
If we were doing this live now, it'd be like live reactions. We'd have people from our Discord in the comments. Just this guy.
Just go look.
I think that it's going to be a camp body. I don't think there's any way. I mean, when you look at who else we've got there, sort of like I said, McIntosh, got Halani who's still there. Unless they're looking for some game changer X factor, because what is he, 6 foot, 225 pounds or something? Big old boy.
Looks a physical runner. Averaging 4.5 yards a carry at that level, which is decent. Averaged about 75 to 80 carries each season. It's not.
Yeah.
I think camp body is probably inaccurate, especially when you look at how competitive that room is and the level of quality. You don't want to be the guy that's like a dramatic drop off in quality in that room because you're going to the practice squad. If you're considered a good backup to what we're doing with our group, so that looks more like a Charbonnet backup than a Ken Walker backup. Which
I can get on board with.
Yeah,
because I think the backup for Ken Walker is going to be McIntosh.
Yeah,
just running style, speed, a lot.
And to some extent, Chenault as well, if he makes the roster. Because we're splitting him out into space and trying to get him in open situations. Chenault can pick up. I mean, if you were to lose Ken and he was doing a lot of that stuff anyway, that it sort of gets covered a bit. So,
if you're speaking about Chenault, I think that leads us very well onto some of the highlights of training camp so far. Laviska Shenault has been showing out. He's had quite a few good receptions and runs. He's been back there taking kickoffs as well. Speaking of other wide receivers who've been showing out, Jake Bobo, I think by now we have all seen that marvelous horizontal leap-in catch. That is one way to cement yourself in a coach's mind.
Yeah.
For a throw that was that far out of your catch radius to then go, no, I'm going to go get that anyway.
That I was going to mention catch radius because that's a funny one. When you're static, if you're on a comeback route or something, you want to be able to catch outside the body confidently. But there's catching outside the body from a standing position, and then there's diving full stretch as he 6'3", 6'4". Yeah, diving full stretch with your long limbs, and it just looks spectacular when you grab it. And the fact that it was a touchdown as well, it wasn't in open space, it wasn't sort of halfway, it was literally into the end zone, so it was maximum effect,
maximum effort
as well. Yeah, and it was right in front of Ian Rappaport on the sideline as well, which I thought was really funny. He happened to be at that session, and he did it right in front of him, so I thought that was really funny.
Right, so to put the maximum effort in, I went to see Deadpool last night, and I was the mug that went and bought the mug and the popcorn thing as well. I was with my wife, and we were ordering, and I was hovering over it. She went, "Just buy it, for God's sake." I was like, "Okay, thank you, bye." So now I've just got to figure out what to do the popcorn to. Yeah, exactly. That's now my car cup. But we also had things like, so we're going to talk obviously about the D-line. Draymond was out with a tweaked hammy on Friday. As a report yesterday, he wasn't practicing still. So hopefully he comes back because he's done a lot of work in the off-season. I think, as we'll get onto, he might be integral to this D-line and the linebacking group. Speaking of linebackers, Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker seem to be creating a bit of chemistry. It was really nice hearing Jerome Baker speak on the mic, actually, at the interview. He seems like a very clued up and wise linebacker.
Yeah. We need that in that room. I think we expect it from Leonard Williams. We expect it from Jay Love. Those sort of experienced heads that can sort of calm the room and speak sense. It's really good to hear that from him. And the good thing is, with his injury history, even if he is injured, he can still, lead the group. And I don't want to put any kind of jinx on him there. I think his injury record speaks for itself. There's a reason why a player of that quality got a 1-year deal. I really hope he stays healthy, just in time for us to give him like a 2 or 3 year deal and then spend most of that time injured. That would be the most Seahawks thing.
Kiss of death there. Cheers, Mitch. That's it.
But no, genuinely, I like you listened to that interview and thought he comes across really well, right? Yeah. I think that's the main thing. Dodson did as well, actually. I thought Dodson came across really
that as well.
Yeah, they're really good characters for that room, both of them. And I funnily enough, I think they were brought in to be sort of an experienced nucleus to that defense. But actually, when you look at it, Dodson hasn't had that many snaps at NFL level. He's been a perennial kind of backup. But that in itself is
to Milano, and then Milano got injured last season, and that's when Dodson showed out.
And but that in itself is an experience. Because it shows that they always say at the NFL level, you have to be ready for your moment. He, over the last 5 years, there aren't many players that have really seized that moment as well as him. There are players who, they're rookies or undrafted free agents that surprise us. Puka Nacua, players like that. But if Puka Nacua had been wide receiver 3 or 4 and had been on the bubble of the roster and into the practice squad, and suddenly there was an injury to Cooper Kupp, like there is every year, and then he comes in and balls out like that, and then goes to someone as a free agent, that would be the same kind of story. This guy had waited and waited and waited. That is in itself a kind of a mini Geno Smith situation, isn't it? Well, although he hadn't had the rejections and moving across all the states of America, but he'd waited for his chance and fully seized it, is the point I'm making. So that's a different experience to what Baker's had. which I
Gino
like.
must have built up some decent air miles. So was it New York, LA, New York, and then did he come
the
to
other
us
one?
after that? There was another, pretty sure there was another one. But yeah, either way, yeah.
Well, his revenge tour. His revenge tour was 3 games, wasn't it? But there was a team he played for that wasn't on our schedule. I'm sure there was as
I'll
well.
allow you to go on, Stato.
What? I could be wrong, man. I could be
with your
wrong.
massive screen.
I'm often wrong.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to seeing them two play. I think they complement each other well, and they've both been green dot. Whereas I think Matty F. Brown at the Seahawks rundown put out a pod about Julian Love being a potential green dot, which I can really see, because I genuinely he's another player we need to talk about when it comes to training camp, because that's twice he's picked off Gino now, and he just looks in full command of that secondary. People are gravitating towards him. He's making plays. He speaks really well. I think he's pretty much, he must be top of the list for Mike Mack at the moment to be defensive captain.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, there's not much more to say than that, really. Geno Smith, by the way, LA Chargers, Jets, and Giants. There you go.
There you go.
So
it went Jet. Did it go Jets, Chargers, Giants, or Jets?
Chargers
Giants,
was third. So yeah, he didn't go back to New York. He went from one to the other.
New York.
Yeah,
as you do. You
would if
stay
you
in
could.
New York, go to the enemy. At least he knew the ground. But yeah, and then we had, like I said, about Draymond being injured. Mike Morris was injured, carted off yesterday with what looked like a hand or arm injury, which is not a good sign for our boy there. But hopefully it's only going to be something minor, spraining of the hand or finger.
Dislocated finger or something, yeah.
That's right. They're popping back in all the time. Pop, bit of tape, give be right. It's fine. But with that, unless you can think of anything else from training camp you'd like to discuss, Mitch?
Yeah, did Mike Morris actually get carted off with a hand injury?
I think so.
Or was that just a turn of phrase? Because if I was a big, well, I am a big boy, but if I was a big boy in training camp, right, like Mike Morris is, and I, hurt my hand, I don't know if I'd want to load up onto a cart. That just, you lose manly points for that kind of thing.
Yeah, but then again, DK loaded up onto a cart to go for a poop.
A toilet break.
So
it's a low bar we've set.
How desperate must you be for a poop to be like, guys, I can't walk to the loo, because if I walk, there's going to be an accident. Get me the cart so I can clench and sit.
Unless he'd already gone and he was trying to make sure that the cat, maybe sitting on the cart was to hide a. Maybe that's a conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theories. It's a new segment.
I mean, that is career suicide, isn't it? To walk down the tunnel with a wet patch on the back of your pants, because the cameras are looking at you walking down the tunnel, because people are going to think you're injured. So they're going to get the best view of your worst moment. So
maybe that scene from The Longest Yard. I think I made him himself. Yeah. Oh, this guy's definitely himself. Yeah. And there you go. That's editing straight away. Just bleeping myself out. Who needs a bleep button? And with that, so shall we get on to talking about our big boys?
Let's do it. Yeah, that's good.
Now, as always, we are the proud supporters of the UK Seahawkers. But Mitch and I are both card carrier members, and you can be a card carrier member as well for £12 for the year. Absolutely nothing. £1 a month. You get some cool goodies. You get access to the meetup, which is in Glasgow next year. 10% discount at the pro shop. There's a chance to win game day field passes. So if when the season gets released that you're going to a game, you contact them and you can be put into a draw to win a field pass. And I've seen some of the pictures of these. They look absolutely amazing. So, Mitch, when you and I do our podcast sojourn over to Seattle, we will be putting our hat firmly in that ring. And £20 for a family membership, up to 4 people. Can't be bad, can it? This year, we got fantastic. As always, we get our wristbands. You get a throwback patch. You get an RFD card. Stops people scanning your card. And you get your membership card. Also, we've got a lot of friends and listeners and watchers from the German Seahawkers, so I'd like to give them a shout out too, and I'll get it right this time. You can join from only €15 per year, which is approximately £12.68p or $16.06. Done. There you go. That's it. I'm not going to rehash myself like I did in the last episode. Yep. Good. There you go. I can read. You get access to the tailgate end zones. Again, 10% off the pro store. There's raffles and competitions. There's articles and discounts. Articles are on the GermanSeahawkers.com website. Get it on Google. Free plug there. I'm not sponsored by them. Click translate. All comes up in English, and they are fantastic. So yeah, big shout out to them. But now, let's get into our positional breakdown. D-line and O-line. Battle of the big boys. And as one past big boy who co-hosts this with a big boy, let's talk about them. In fact, Mitch, I'm pretty sure you're probably taller than quite a few of the big boys we've got on these lines.
Yeah, I think so. Who's our tallest lineman? How tall is Bradford? Actually, I'll check this before the next pod.
Yeah, have a look.
I'm going to see if I'm bigger and heavier than most of our line. I think I am.
I'll put them on the Mitchometer.
I think Jason Peters might have beaten me, but last year. But I'll give the current crop a run for the money. I think. Although McClendon Curtis is a monster, isn't he? Isn't McClendon Curtis like 6'8"? He's got me beat by at least an inch.
Why would you put him at guard as well?
Well, he's moved to right tackle currently. He's behind Fant at right tackle currently in camp. So
we'll get on to that. Well, first let's start with the D line. Exciting addition in the draft. And an exciting re-sign. Now, I have got these depth charts off the ESPN, so please don't come at me if they are incorrect. I blame them as the professional sports journalists that they are. So let's go through this. So in their mind, in a 3-4 defense, the starting three is going to be Draymond on the left, Jaron Reed at nose, and Leonard Williams on the right. What I'll go through them all, and then Mitch, you and I can pick and choose where we feel might be different. Second string, Byron Murphy, Jonathan Hankins, and Nathan Pickering. Third string, Mike Morris, Cameron Young, Miles Adams. And fourth, Devere Levelston, Matt Gotel, and Buda Jones. So for those who can't see this, are listening, Draymond's currently questionable with his injury, but I reckon with it being a hammy, unless he's torn it, he'll be back. Cam Young currently is out. Need to double check why. And Buda Jones is on IR. So let's have a look at this, Mitch. That's those starting three. Now, we were going to give honourable mentions to people such as Draymond and Mike Morris, but Mitch, I'll let you wax lyrically. You are the man for this one.
Sure. So I think that ESPN's probably assuming that we're playing a similar defensive scheme to last year, where we were playing a 3-man front and Draymond Jones was brought in to be a 3-tech defensive end in a bare front, and that is not where he's going to be used predominantly this year. So I think you can remove him there. I also think Jonathan Hankins is the starting nose tackle. So I'm expecting Jaron Reed. If you were to swap Jaron Reed up one position to where Draymond is and then put Jonathan Hankins in the middle of that line, I think that's far closer to what we're going to see if we do play a three-man front. Although the defensive line is often going to be 7 or 8 bodies, and Jonathan Hankins has been dropping into coverage a lot so far. So
terrifying
prospect for a tight end on a crossing route. To see a nose tackle that size, coming at you. So I think that's really interesting because of all the bodies on the defensive line to be dropping out. I think the nose tackle's the one you generally think is not going to be the one. But actually, when you look at what Mike Mack did in Baltimore, that's the defensive tackles dropping into the hook behind the defensive line. They did that more on 3rd and 4th downs. So if it's a 3rd and 4th down and it's a passing down, and your nose tackle's on the field, and he's not there to stuff the run, it then makes sense that he's the guy to come out, right? If it's, for instance, if it's third or 4th and 8, you're not expecting a run, so your nose tackle dropping out of that line does make some sense. You've then got 6 or 7 bodies coming at the quarterback who needs to hold the ball a little bit longer because he needs to make at least 8 to 10 yards. That's problems, So, yeah, we've seen a lot of that from Hankins. I think Jaron Reed will be a backup to nose and play a lot more DT this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll see more four-man fronts this year than we did last year. So there is room for Jaron Reed and Hankins to line up together in the middle with Leonard Williams on the edge of playing as a traditional defensive end in a four-man front as well, which is also where we see Draymond Jones, I think, as well, more often than not. So not a million miles off that for me. What do you think?
I think the first defensive snap of the season, we are going to see, like you said, probably Reed, Hankins, and Williams if we go for a 3-man front. I don't think, and I know this will probably rile some people up, I don't think Byron Murphy is going to be a starter. I know people are really pinning some hopes on him, but I think there's still development. Mike Mack's come out and said he's started off a lot slower than he has. Now that could be because of his off-field distractions that are currently going on. But we don't judge here. Each their own. You do you, mate, or whoever you want. But yeah, I think the Draymond Jones and Mike Morris, we've said before, they're going to be looking more like big ends, in my opinion. Jaron Reed, I think, is going to be used as a movable piece. I think he's going to end up playing at defensive end. He's going to end up playing sort of 3-tech. They'll put him in at nose on some packages as well, because let's face it, last season he did quite well at nose. And Williams, I think they'll all be used sort of in a similar vein. Williams and Reed, you can put them all the way across, whether it be 3-tech or nose, just to disrupt and try and create some sort of confusion on that offensive line as to where they're going, what gaps they're attacking. Hankins is an out-and-out nose. If he drops into coverage more than, let's say, 20 times in the season, I will be surprised, because it's all well and good him dropping into coverage, but he is a large unit. So there's not going to be a lot of room for him to move. And yeah, Cam Young, I'm a bit gutted that he's injured because I had high hopes for him. Miles Adams is still hanging around. I think he needs to really show out in camp. Matt Gotel, I've seen a lot of video of Matt Gotel. Aidan Dirty seems to really like him. That, or he sees a lot of refinement that needs to go on. So you see him doing a lot of the one-on-one drills, and Gotel's always there with him. So whether he sees him being a future piece that just needs that refinement. Butter Jones, unfortunately, on IR. And I'll be very honest, I didn't even know we had Nathan Pickering.
Yeah,
who I will, for all intents and purposes, will be calling Ronnie Pickering. Yeah,
put you in the infirmary.
Do you know who I am?
Who?
Yeah, Ronnie Pickering. Well, yeah, I think that the big thing of this, and this is where obviously our next pod will be talking about sort of QB room, the running back room, and the linebackers. When you look at players like Draymond, who's been doing a lot of work in the off season, who really looks to have slimmed down and been working on his fast twitch sort of get off, and Mike Morris as well, as we said in the last pod, has really slimmed down. I think we're going to be looking at them more as edge players as opposed to 3-techs, as it is on this. I do think that the starting three, if we go with the three to start, picks itself, like you said.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy, I think he's going to be drip fed to start with, see what impact he can have.
Yeah, I think we'll see Byron Murphy used in a lot of specific scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got areas of his game that are already potentially like elite NFL sort of. He's got an elite NFL traits, but he's going to face a very different kind of opponent, and I think we can put him in situations where he can get quick wins, help his confidence, wet his feet, and I think those situations are going to come up fairly often. It's not going to be a starting role for me. And I want to see him start, but it isn't practical. We've got a really talented group and a really versatile group as well. There's not many scenarios where you look at that group and you think, oh, we're going to need to keep swapping this player off because he wouldn't be good in this scenario. Players like Jaron Reed have played 3 or 4 different positions, over 100 times, over 100 snaps at each position. There aren't many scenarios where you're going to go, okay, this player has to come out because Byron Murphy has to play, or Byron Murphy can't do this. It's all so interchangeable. He's going to see game time. And with Cameron Young, he was expected to be back at the end of this week or early next week. So it doesn't look like he's going to miss much camp. And I think he's going to play a lot of our preseason games.
I hope so, because I've got big hopes for Cam Young. I thought he showed out so much pace for a big man last season. It was nearly inhuman levels. Big men should not be able to shift like that at all, ever.
Yeah. And he projects to be really good in this system as well, because he was very good at getting penetration because he had a quick get off for his size. Combine that now with a scheme where he's going to be lined up against different sort of opponents each time. There's going to be an element of surprise there and unpredictability, which again, if you really want to utilize that small window of surprise, have a quick get off. If you're slow off the snap, you yield that that split second of chaos back to the opponent to react. He's the kind of player to really capitalize on that. So I think he projects as a very, very interesting player in this system.
Yeah. I think the D line it's pretty much set. If you ask me, it's one of those where we know who's going to be there. I think the biggest question marks are going to be: can Jonathan Hankins still do it? Will Byron Murphy be this destructive force that we all hope he is? And what is going to happen with our 3 techs? Because there's going to be a heavy rotation, but again, that is on the proviso that we play a 3-4. But as you said, with my Mac, you do not know. There could be 7 men lining up on the D line, only which 3 of them are actually playing D line.
Yeah, and there were times last year for Baltimore where the middle linebacker would be lined up in front of the center. And when the ball was snapped, he didn't drop out into the hook. He stayed and battled with the center. So it's the center. The center's there thinking, I should be scrapping with a much bigger dude. Where's my big dude? Oh, he's in the gap between me and my right guard, and the right guard's had to pick up a corner. And it's just chaos. So just because there's a nose tackle lined up there looking like a nose tackle doesn't mean he's actually the nose tackle. So honestly, just be ready to be sort of having to watch a replay 3 or 4 times before you understand what we just did. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that you kind of it just happens, and you're catching up with it constantly, trying to dissect what we've just done to someone. There's going to be lots of that.
I remember me and you talking after the Baltimore game last season, and you pointed out, oh, look at some of these plays where there were 7 men on the D line. And I didn't clock it in the game, but then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, but then you had like one of the edges dropping back, and you had a safety on a blitz or a corner on a blitz, and it was, like I said, it was just chaos, just organized chaos. And it was, when you actually started watching it and slowing it down, it worked so well because you didn't know what was happening. I'm interested and intrigued to see what he's going to do with this group now.
Yeah,
Because
well,
there is still
when you look at, sorry, I was just going to say, when you look at the success that Boye Mafe had last year, often it was Nwosu beating his man on the one side and flushing quarterbacks and running backs out of the pocket on Mafe's side, and Mafe mixing up his moves and managing to beat his guy to just nail down the play. You know, he was there to cash in. We're going to have chaos all over the place. It's going to be less sort of I'm not going to say structured. Actually, I was about to say structured, because our chaos is going to be, it's going to look crazy, but it's going to be intentional every time. Where the penetration comes is going to be called ahead of the snap. But it's going to be less repetitive in, like, okay, Maffei's done it again. Maffei's done it again. You know, it's going to be Hankins with 3 sacks in one game, or, you know, Jaron Reed has a monster game. It's just going to the offensive line is going to crumble in different ways, and it is all going to be orchestrated by Mike Mack. Different players are going to feast. So
it does terrify me though, thinking about Aidan Durde, who is held in such high regard. Every reporter, every player who talks about him, raves about him. He's now going to be learning a defense from Mike McDonald. And then it's how long are we going to be able to keep him? Even though he's a DC with us, when he's given the full reins and he's learned what the system is, how long till someone then comes knocking and going, we need that as well. Hopefully we can keep him, because it's so nice having another Englishman.
It is lovely. From our team's perspective, though, I think young, talented defensive coaches, if the vacancy comes up in a couple of years because Durde goes, some of the greatest young defensive minds in the country, if Mike Mack does what he did at Baltimore and Michigan with us, we're going to have a line of thoroughbred defensive coaches, you know, ready to pick up that role. So I'm less concerned. I'm less concerned about losing a good defensive coach. I would be disappointed about losing a fellow Brit, because I think it's really neat that we've got such a talented defensive coach and he's British. So, yeah.
There you go. One for the Brits there. Right. I think that's it for the D line. The big boys on defense. So let's turn the ball over the offensive line. And again, thank you to ESPN for their supposed starting O-line. For those who aren't watching and are listening on one of the multiple podcasting platforms, they've got it down as our starting O-line. Are you ready for this? Charles Cross at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson at left guard, Nick Harris at centre, Anthony Bradford at right guard, and Abe Lucas at starting right tackle. And then in the second string, Stone Forsyth, Ilm Manning, Olu Oluwatimi, Christian Haynes, George Fant. Third string, Garrett Greenfield, McClendon Curtis, Michael Nowitzki, Raekwon O'Neal, Michael Gerald, and then Satawa Lamea and Max Pircher bringing up the rear. Now, I think instantly, if we look through that the starting O-line, Cross and Laken Tomlinson, I'm fine with that. I think that's going to be the left side of our O-line. Centre vexes me as to why they've got Nick Harris starting and not Olu.
I guess they might have done that because Nick Harris has got more starting snaps under his belt in the NFL than Olu. So if you put those two next to each other, then potentially the one with the most NFL snaps projects as the starter. But I think that the talent level and the belief in Olu probably means that in our kind of transitional year, he's the one we want to see the most snaps, so that going into next year, he is the NFL, veteran on that, center sort of pool. But off the raw sort of data, Harris is more of a starting center than Olu historically. So I guess that makes sense.
Right guard Anthony Bradford, who
Bradford's having a really good camp.
I was literally about to say, didn't he just destroy Byron Murphy?
Yeah, and I think if there's a kind of offensive lineman that he might struggle with, it is the bigger bodied, the bigger bodied lineman. Although I will say this, right, in a 1v1 is very different to an actual line, because Byron Murphy will position himself pre-snap in one spot, juke one way, go the other, engage with someone else, pick up a double team so someone else can win. When you're 1v1, you're literally just it's already known where you're starting, where you're going, and who you're scrapping with. So I think in those one-on-one scenarios, it is already a 70-30 in favor of the lineman, because their job is to prevent, your job is to beat, and the person trying to prevent you doesn't really need to do much guessing. You have to fool that guy and then beat him physically. And when it's a guy as big as that, you need to fool the guy that already knows what you're doing, and he's much bigger than you. It's a tough spot.
Bradford just being a run specialist blocker, big guys, he would have been fine with that. But I still don't see him starting at right guard anyway. Either way, moving on to the bone of contention, which we were talking about off air, and I will allow you, Mitch, not even allow you, you can just go for it, son. Abe Lucas. So Abe Lucas is still, in fact, no, Mitch, go. You are the man with the knowledge and the news here.
Okay, well, Abe Lucas is still on the pup list, despite the fact that he is running full speed. Mike Mack said that he is running full speed. And when you hear that someone is running full speed and has been shifting the tin in the weight room as well, very, very publicly with the posts and things and the videos and the updates, you do start to wonder, why is this guy not in pads and back on the practice field? And it points for me to the fact that he is not at a stage yet where they trust the structural integrity of that knee. For the sort of rigors of absorbing impact and putting large loads of weight through it while twisting or moving, and there's concern there. I think Pete Carroll described it as chronic, but that was then taken back at a later time. That to me points to something that's degrading or potentially would be very serious if it recurred. It was chronic, then it wasn't. So there's something there which is ongoing. So I think they're being extremely careful with him. However, Mike Mack did say he didn't rule out that he could play week 1, but his tone has started to become a little bit more cautious when he talks about it. Before, he was excited that he was running and he was out there with the guys, but not training with them. Suddenly, he's a bit more cautious with how much he sort of commits to anything. He's very reserved now in his wording with things, and that points to me potentially like we're going to be seeing Fant starting at right tackle, which doesn't scare me actually. The talent level is not quite the same, but the competence and the if anything, we've got a far more experienced, passable, starting NFL right tackle there. So McClendon Curtis has been moved to right tackle in camp, which is really interesting because we picked up Mike Gerald, who is also showing out in camp, but is still being used on the inside. Satawa Lamea there is in the fourth string, but he's had a really good camp as well, and I think he's right in that mix for backup left guard or right guard. But that's also someone coming into our team that had experience playing tackle. That McClendon Curtis has been sort of moved in, sort of slotted in ahead of. So there's really interesting. I mean, they're clearly valuing versatile linemen in this team anyway. When you look at who we drafted, we took multiple positional guys, right? So they clearly valued that, but they've really sort of shuffled the pack with some outside of Charles Cross and Laken Tomlinson, as you mentioned. That centre to the right hand side of that line, it projects very differently on a day to day basis. Apart from George Fant, who now looks to me like he's going to be a lock.
Nailed on start for the day one.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting there is with the preseason games, we often see starters rested after about a quarter, and then if at a guess, and I'm not going to quote you on it, Josh, but at a guess, who plays the second, third, and fourth quarter of that game, of the first game at right tackle? Will it be McClendon Curtis or will it be Satawa Lamea, Michael Jarrell? Because George Fant, if he is going to be the starter of week one, they won't hang him out there, especially as a veteran as well, for 4 quarters.
I think it might be. It's in my head. It's between Curtis and Jarrell. I think Lamea, they're grooming to be a guard, like swing guard, left and right. Part of me says because they're so high on Curtis, and he's done so much over the off season, I think it'd probably go to Curtis. But then the next game, we might see Jarrell get some meaningful snaps there as well.
Interesting. And I just looked at that list and thought the one player we're not talking about, who's the obvious person to be a backup in a tackle position, is Stone Forsyth.
Because he's not going to be on the team.
I think we both kind of silently agreed on that there, while just not discussing him at all.
It's a shame.
However,
I had such high hopes of him coming out of college, and because he was projected to go in the second round, third round, and I think we got him in the fifth. For some reason, that's what's the fifth or sixth, and yeah, he's not shown anywhere near the development in the snaps that he's had, and he's had extensive snaps for a backup when you think about all the injuries we've had. I just don't think he's shown the development to warrant him taking the place of someone else that one of the people that we've mentioned already.
I agree. Yeah, definitely agree there.
I think I don't think Bradford will start at right guard. I really don't. I think it's that. Do you know? I genuinely think they're just going to plug Haynes straight in there.
I think if I was splitting up the average, like if we're talking about Haynes, Bradford, and we were originally talking about McClendon Curtis in there, but I guess now it's Toa Lamea that's likely to be the other consideration in there. I think, in fact, I'm not going to say who I think is a starting right guard there, because I think in different packages we're just going to want different things. So saying that Anthony Bradford is third string for that spot, in my opinion, isn't really accurate, because I think if we're in a game where we're running the ball a lot and we're running zone schemes, Anthony Bradford's a great fit for that. If we're playing with a really mobile O-line and we're shifting after the snap in certain ways and flushing defenses one way and then misdirecting and running the opposite way with Ken Walker and stuff, Bradford's not going to be really playing many snaps in that. So
there's a more athletic guard.
Or Jarrell. I mean, there were very few offensive linemen with a relative athletic score as high as Jarrell in history, let alone last year. So Gerald projects really well as well. And then there's Satawa Lamea that's got that huge reach, and We've got everything. There's so much talent and so much diversity on that line. It's actually mad. You could hire a different offensive lineman. Sorry, you could hire a different offensive coach or offensive line coach every week for the 17 weeks of the season, and they would find fits for their system in that group because there's so much in there. It's not like there's going to be 8 bodies and they're all going to be capable of doing exactly the same thing. You've got different shapes, sizes, some athletic, some more sort of heavy set guys. It's such a varied group.
And let's not forget that we brought in Connor Williams for a visit.
Yes, yeah. I mentioned last on our last pod that he'd done his physical and passed a physical at our facility, and I don't think I made it clear at the time. He finished last season on the PUP list, so as a free agent this year, he was a free agent that would need to pass a physical. So he passed that physical in Seattle with our coaches and our staff. So he had obviously chosen to have his first visit in the Pacific Northwest, which is great because he's obviously liking the idea of the project, or there's coaches there he's worked with before. There's something there that has drawn him to go, okay, well, I'll do my physical up there, speak to you guys first, and then if I pass that physical, my phone's going to be ringing. Because he's a top 5 center in the league, especially when it comes to pass protection. So, yeah, I think we've got the inside track basically. There's a topical term there with the Olympics going on. Which, if you see me glancing to my top screen, I've got the Olympics on.
Totally off piece. Did you see that the USA women's rugby sevens team won bronze?
I watched it.
Oh.
They were superb.
I'm going to watch the highlights. I was at the beach with my family, and I saw it pop up on my phone. I was like, I knew something I was supposed to watch. Yeah, but a big shout out to Ilona Mayer, what an absolute superstar of the women's game. She's one person that I will be showing TikToks and videos to my daughter when she's old enough to be like, look, this is a strong woman who plays rugby. She's also absolutely fabulous. Follow her lead. Anyway, sorry, that was me just going into a bit of a rugby thing there. And USA. Rugby's growing there.
They did brilliant.
Players. And also Jason Kelsey was there watching them.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, big fan of the USA women's rugby team. He was saying he's been all over the interviews and everything. So
very cool.
There you go. That was our off-piece bit there. Sorry. Any opportunity to get rugby in. And you mentioned the Olympics, so I was like, perfect segue.
I opened the door.
Yeah. The rugby and tackling, just never mention them.
Or spinal injuries. That's your trifecta of tangents.
My God, I've become so easy to read. Yeah.
Hey, it's always interesting. Genuinely, you bring really good insight to those conversations, but they are definitely things to keep away from if we're trying to keep a pod short. I think.
Yeah. I cut myself off there anyway. Go on, Mitch. You can carry on talking about Connor Williams.
Yeah, no. I just think that we there's obviously something to that if we've had him in, and we've obviously freed up so much money as well. With the cap, and we've not seen that sort of big splashy acquisition yet. I think he would command some money, and the fact that he can play left and right guard as well, I think that again we spoke about the versatility of that room. He adds key experience at positions that you really want that experience in. So the longer we go without Abe Lucas passing a physical, I think we may look to use some of that money that we have available on that O-line for veteran presence. I
agree wholeheartedly. And as we've actually got some money in the bank, why not? I mean, with that was our breakdown of the D-line and O-line. Let us know what you think of our assessment of who the starting D-line and O-line should be. If you think we're right, if you think we're wrong, what are your ideas? Put it in the comments down below, or you know what else you could do to chat to us on the reg? What could they do, Mitch?
Join the Discord. Discord is growing. We've got a great bunch of people in there that love to chew the fat and talk Seahawks with us. Camp started, conversations are flowing, lots of memes and things getting chucked in there. Come and join us. Come and join us and have your say. And also we're going to be looking more and more for contributions with questions for the pod and guests, of course, because we really want to get some 12s on here with us. So come and join the Discord. The link is going to be underneath in the information section below. Come and get involved.
There you go. Get involved. And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share with whoever. You will see me or the pod sharing this on various Seahawk Facebook groups. You can find us on Instagram, X. We have got the Facebook group, so by all means, come and join the Discord. Pop onto our YouTube. Find us on Spotify, Amazon, Google does not exist anymore for podcasts, I found out after receiving multiple emails that I've just gone meh to. But any other of your podcasting apps, we are going to be available. As Mitch said, we are looking for you, the 12s, to come and join us on this pod. It's what we're here. We're a 12 Talk podcast by 12s, for 12s, with 12s. And the 12s we are with are you. We want you to come and appear. We've had some fantastic 12s on so far. We've got more lined up as well. We've had a few that have commented on our YouTube saying they'd like to join, and we will definitely get them on. You will have an hour to talk about various topics and just shoot with us and let us know what you think. That's it. We're pretty laid back. Just please don't swear. We're a family-friendly podcast, and we like to keep it that way. Plus, I don't want to keep editing out swear words. It's quite simply, I'm just a bit lazy that way. But yeah, I am. I think it's time we need to sign off. I need to go to bed because I've got a pack for a music festival. That's right. I had to get that in there, Mitch. I'm sorry. I'm really excited about it. I
enjoy it. Bask in it.
Oh, I will be basking in the Derbyshire sun. I will be DJing Why Not Festival in Derbyshire with some fantastic music acts, just to name a couple: Snow Patrol, Jamie T, Noel Gallagher, and I'll be in the VIP and one of the stages there. And I am so pumped. I took a bit of a break from DJing when my daughter was born, and I can't wait to get back into it. So we'll be back next week. If you've got anything you want to say to us, by all means, Discord, comments, X, whatever else you find us on. I've been Josh. This has been Mitch. I'm just going to do that. You're on one of these fingers, mate. That's the way. Yeah, that one. Am I pointing the right way?
Nope.
This is a common theme for anyone who hasn't joined it. Is it this way now?
I feel like you're doing it on purpose.
I generally don't know anymore. The common theme on this pod, I have no idea which way to point because my camera sometimes mirrors. But I've been Josh. This has been Mitch. We are the 12 Talk podcast, and I think we should end with a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Peace.
Go Hawks. Peace.